Social media mob has gotten their way once again. And police are taking a second look, scrutinizing even more the family of the, some say 3-year-old, some say 4-year-old. I don't know exactly his age because I've seen reports of both, that fell into the gorilla enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo, resulting in the gorilla 450-pound Harambe gorilla being shot and killed in order to protect the life of the child. And this is funny because I've had people tell me this is the first time they've disagreed with me because I guess you could say I've been defensive of the parents. Not that it's very possible the parents may have been negligent. I leave that possibility out there. What I'm angry about is the social media mob who make determinations based on not knowing all of the facts in those cases. And I'm usually the first person to blame the parents because 9 times out of 10 it is the parents' fault. And frankly, as I said yesterday, it probably is the parents' fault in this case, but there's different kinds of fault, right? There's honest mistakes, errors, and then there is negligence. And this was, I don't believe, and it's possible that I'm wrong on this, but I don't believe this was a case of pure negligence. Negligence is you leave your kid in a hot car for 20 minutes on a hot sunny day with the windows rolled up and the doors locked. That's negligence. But negligence is not letting your kid play outside where you can't see them 100% of the time when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. That's not necessarily negligence. Negligence is not holding their hand for a 30-second period at the zoo. Negligence is not necessarily when you don't believe a 3-year-old child who says they're going to go down and see the gorilla. Especially when you make the assumption, when you're in the zoo, you make the assumption that would not be possible for a 3-year-old to do. You'd be wrong in that assumption because all things are possible through 3-year-olds. But you would make that assumption that it's a place that has taken all those things into consideration. So my question now is, what is the legal ramifications? Will the parents get prosecuted? Will the parents sue? Now, my defense of the parents stops, one, if it comes to light that they were indeed negligent, or two, if they decide they want to try to make some money out of this and sue the zoo, because the zoo had passed inspection. This particular exhibit had been there for 30-some-odd years and had never been breached before. Leave it to a 3 or 4-year-old boy to do that, but that had never happened before. There was no reason for the zoo. The zoo could reasonably expect that people would stay out of the gorilla enclosure, and the parents could have reasonably expected that people would not go in as well, including their own son. Thus, we're at an impasse where we try to decide who holds legal liability, if any. Chris Lewis is a legal expert and a lawyer, and he joins me on News Radio 840 WHAS. Chris, this story has been parsed and reparsed and unparsed and then parsed back together again for the last several days by all the millions of experts in America that have gained their knowledge solely on social media. Legally, who has the biggest case here? Do the police have a case to prosecute the parents, or do the parents have a case against the zoo, or is this one of those rare cases in American society when everybody should say lesson learned and we move on?
Yeah, I've been listening to your intro to this story, and I think what's going to happen here and all my legal expertise is I'm essentially going to repackage everything that you said. This is so what we have in our society these days. We've become so litigious about everything. Kids get in fights at school. All of a sudden, the police get called, and you're talking about junior high kids or even elementary school kids. Now we're like, who has the best case? Hopefully, what's going to prevail here is. I don't think that the parents have a very good case against the zoo because, yeah, maybe it should have been foreseeable that a child or somebody can get into this enclosure. You're talking about a 450-pound wild animal that can kill a human in any second. How is a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old able to so easily get into that enclosure? Invariably, and we've seen it on social media, there's going to be fingers pointing at the parents. But, I'm in a unique position in that I've got twin 3-year-olds and a 5-year-old, and you're absolutely right. It's not uncommon to take your eyes off of them for 20, 30 seconds, a minute, and then they're gone. You don't know where they're at. You're looking around, and as parents, we've all gotten that panic. And if a child in that amount of time is able to get into this enclosure, then I don't necessarily think, these people aren't going to be prosecuted unless what you said, there is something that shows that they were extremely negligent.
Let me ask you this, because and your signal's kind of cutting a little bit out. I don't know if you have somebody trying to call in or not, but let me ask you this. You mentioned you have 2 3-year-olds, and paint this scenario. You got the way this is set up. You got the bushes, you got the fence, you got the bushes, and then you got the drop off. And the kid apparently disappeared into the bushes. So let's say you're walking along with your 2 3-year-olds, and you're in the zoo where there's a lot of people around, and suddenly the 3-year-old's not holding your hand anymore, and you're going, where did he go? The first place you're going to look is not necessarily the bushes, the gorilla in cage, right? I mean, the first place you're going to look is, where are the people who could have taken my child, or that he could have gotten lost among, correct?
Absolutely.
So that gives the child 30 seconds to get through the bushes and fall down the enclosure.
No doubt about it. So, I had this same, not that you need to hear my stories, but I had this same thing. I took my 5-year-old to a baseball game the other day. I simply turned for a second to ask an attendant, where is my seat? The next thing I know, I can't find my child anywhere. Now, he only ended up being about 30 yards from me, but because of all the people, I didn't see him, and I was panicking. I didn't. The last thing that you think in this situation, because we do have a lot of confidence in zoos and in places we go and places that cater to kids, that this is going to be a safe environment. So maybe the last thing that you think about is the thing that's the most dangerous in actuality, and that's that they got into the pit or they got into the enclosure.
Yeah, and I don't know about in your case, but in my case, you're a lawyer, so I wouldn't be surprised if you were the same way as I was in a child. I mean, you ended up with a law degree, I ended up with a microphone, but my parents had a 4-year-old that was not only a typical boy when they were raising me, but also talked to everybody. I never had my mouth shut. I was constantly... I would see something or somebody that was interesting, and my parents would have to chase me because I'd be going to figure out what it is and then talking to them, So you get inquisitive young children, and you throw that in, and then you have all these people making this judgment. My favorite judgment of the whole thing, though, Chris, has been all the guys I've heard on various radio shows and on various Facebook threads, even on my own, that have said, I'd go in there and go mano a mano with that gorilla. Yeah. With a 450-pound gorilla, you're going to go in there and beat that gorilla up and save that kid's life. Like, that's going to happen.
Easy to do. We've got a lot of money. It sounded like, at least from of the video that we saw, there was reacting to the people up above. I'm
losing your...
adult.
Yeah.
I didn't see one adult jump in and try to do anything. So, no. From what I saw of that gorilla, the gorilla was big and imposing, and especially got aggressive.
Yep.
You're not going to have many humans.
So ultimately, as a lawyer, you're saying probably, even if anybody does bring suit, probably not prosecutable on the parents and probably not lawsuit worthy on behalf of the parents either.
Yeah, I think it's, things have happened, but from the criminal prosecution, I think that there's been some outrage, and there's finger pointing, and there's people that are passionate on. I don't see unless we eyes off your child and your child is up.
All right. Look, hey, Chris, I appreciate it. I'm going to have to let you go. The signal is just breaking up way too much. I don't know what's going on with your cell phone there, but I'm losing about every other word that you're saying. But I get it. As a legal expert, you essentially line up with where I'm at. This is just one of those cases where we got all of this heat out there. And it's like, man, I mean, social media has tried and just convicted and nailed these parents, and the animal rights activists are mad at the zoo, and they're mad at the parents, and they're mad at the world, and they're mad at everybody, and everybody's mad. And I'm sitting back and I'm going, this is one of those cases where this massive life lesson where, your kids can get away from you in the blink of an eye. All parents should take this under account. And sometimes it just is one of those situations where we all have to walk away, lesson learned, make the minor adjustments, go on with life.